Right. What is up, ladies and gentlemen? How are ya? What's going on, guys? It's your boy Thinker. It is Sunday night. It is your boy's birthday. That's right. I cannot remember the last time that I was live on the actual day of my birth, but today is the day for it, and we've got some fun for your Sunday, hopefully. We'll see how this all goes, but I think it should be entertaining, at least the way that it's going in my mind. So thank you all for being here. A couple of you guys who showed up early, I appreciate all y'all. Ohio Player, Chase Parton, good to see you, my man. Big Onk MMA, that's what's up. What's going on, brother? Hyped for 314? Same, my dude, absolutely. Darren Elkins fight week soon. Brother, you know I am always about a Darren Elkins fight week. It is it's like a holiday in and of itself. Beeb, what's going on, bro? Good to see you as well, man. I have missed you on the watch-alongs. I know you're out there working hard, so good to see you indeed. Always a pleasure to be here, brother. Thank you so much for being here. So today, what we're going to be doing, all right, I don't know how many of you all saw this. I know that Chase saw it, the Ohio Player. We were talking about this a little bit. We kind of mentioned it, I think, on last week's fights on last Monday in passing. But we're going to be taking a look at this here. This is Zack Snyder is a director that a lot of you might be familiar with. He directed the Superman versus Batman movie, the old Superman movie. I don't know if he's directing this new upcoming one. I think it's another guy. I think it's James Gunn doing the new one, but he's a pretty prolific director at this point, actually. A movie that I quite enjoy that he directed is Watchmen. I really like that one. 300, another movie of his that I like a lot. I'm actually a fan of Zack Snyder's movies. I know he's a very controversial director as well. A lot of people have mixed feelings about the stuff that he's done. Some movies people really like, some movies they really hate. A lot of people who are fans of the DC extended universe stuff, you know, all that comic book stuff is those movies, they have a lot of opinions about him. I like his stuff. I like his stylized work. Like I said, 300 and Watchmen I quite enjoyed. I actually also like the movie Sucker Punch. A lot of people hate that movie. I liked it. So he's going to be directing this movie called Brawler, which is upcoming. It is in conjunction with the UFC and Dana White and Turki Alashikh, the excellency of Turkey, who is also a big combat sports guy. And they're all getting together to form this three-headed beast that's going to be this movie. So we're going to look a little bit at this article. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go over to TV Tropes. And we're going to find out how many tropes we think are going to be applied to this movie. Like how many tropes that we go through at random do we think we're going to be able to see in this film? And we'll rate it on a scale of like 1 to 10, as 1 being least likely and 10 being most likely. So we'll get into that in a second here. Beeb, first off, thoughts on Ilya versus olives leaking? Is that confirmed? I did not hear that. Uh-oh. What? News breaking? Ilya Taporia versus Charlie Olives? Did that just come out today? Oh, I guess did it get leaked on 105 and I missed it? Hold on here. Speculation about Ilya Taporia's next fight has gone into overdrive in recent weeks. La Leyenda, his new nickname. Yes. Okay. So La Leyenda has since claimed that he was promised an immediate title shot at Islam Makhachev, of course, who is widely regarded as the best pound for pound, blah, blah, blah. Ilya's next opponent confirmed. Before Lerone Murphy was booed out of the octagon after his main event win over Josh Emmett at UFC Vegas 105, the promotion's Spanish broadcaster made an announcement about Taporia's next fight. España leaking the deets. Okay, let's see here. It read, Ilya Taporia moves up in weight class and faces Charles Oliveira. The Spaniard will make his lightweight debut. Well, I mean, rumor, I suppose. So nothing confirmed yet, but Spain spilling the beans, you know? Okay, I mean, I suppose that rice and beans, Spanish called that, whatever. Okay, let's drop that one. But, let's not go down that road before we can we're too far to bail on it. But well, you know, okay. I mean, if that's what it is, then I'm not mad about that. I mean, I don't think that Ilya moving up and immediately getting the title shot is what I personally would have done if I was not Dana White. But if I was Dana White and wanted a super fight, that's what I would do. So I don't know. I mean, is everybody like feeling that, or is it not? I mean, I think that Charles Oliveira has been used many, many times as the dude who is like, if you can beat Charlie Olives, then you're in the big boys club now. You know, that's why Michael Chandler never got there and will never get there. You know what I mean? Like Michael Chandler will always be one step below. Michael Chandler not only screwing himself by not getting the Conor fight, but screwing himself by losing the fights that he does get. And losing to Charles Oliveira, that's what keeps you at the level that you will always stay at. That's why you're fighting Paddy Pimblett. Man, Michael Chandler, his career navigation should be studied. So let's I mean, I don't know, what, like, are we upset about this? We happy about this? I'm fine with it personally. I don't mind that. Mr. Knows Nerd Movie Directors. Oh, yeah. Yeah. No, I definitely know my nerd. Bro, I've got an entire shelf right back there that is filled with nothing but movies. That's all I do when I'm not watching MMA. That's a banger of a fight. Yeah, I mean, I'm fine with it. I think it's cool. I like I said, if it's not going to be the immediate title shot, if it's not going to be right to Makhachev, then sure, why not, right? People are mad about Lerone, but he played it smart. He did his best not to get KO'd. We'll talk about all of Lerone versus Josh on Monday, tomorrow night. Big Onk. Is that John Dong? Did you change your name to Big Onk MMA? Is that is that why there's the? I know it off the little wrench icon, but maybe I'm confusing two people. It's funny how Armin won versus Charles and still didn't fight for the title. Well, that is Armin's own fucking fault. All right. Armin screwed himself. Armin is a classic example of a person who, like, there are some people in life that it's like, if you, it's Anakin. Okay. Got you. Man, Anakin. Good to see you, brother. been a while since I've seen you, maybe, actually, it feels like. But good to see you back. But when it comes to Armin, there are some people in life who, like, you know, like people who, if you give them a plate of food, they, like, need to, like, separate all of the food so that it's not touching each other. Like, if you got, like, peas and mashed potatoes and, like, a meat there, like, they're, like, separate them all out so that they, you know, it's like, I don't want my peas crossing over into my mashed potatoes. Everything has to be perfect. That's Armin Tsarukyan. So, bro, you don't get to, like, have every little thing be exactly how you want it to be when you're going into the biggest fight of your life. Armin screwed himself trying to blame it on a stationary bike or doing his breakdancing moves for Nina Drama. What a dummy. Brings up the question, is Justin fighting Islam, or is the winner of Olives versus Ilya fighting Islam next? That's a great question, actually. I would suspect that the organization would want... what I would think is happening here is it could be two things. One, it would be have the fight with Oliveira and Ilya, and then have Justin get his title shot so that we can get Justin out of the way already. That's what I think the organization probably wants to happen, is like, Justin's not going to be champion, right? I think that that's pretty well established. There's no way in hell he's beating Islam Makhachev. I mean, look, anything can happen in MMA, right? I'm not trying to dismiss it 100% out of pocket, but I'm kind of doing that. So the organization is like, everybody likes Justin. He's fan favorite. Let him have his title shot so that we can quietly usher him out, you know, because this will be, if he fights for the title and loses, that'll be his swan song. So get him out of the way, have Oliveira and Ilya have their fight for number one contender and, you know, or immediate title shot thereafter kind of thing. And then everything is right with the world. So I would think that that's probably the way that that's going to go down. The other option is that Justin just doesn't fight for the title. Even though, you know, I mean, Dana was kind of hinting that he would fight for the title, but I think that there's a world that exists where he just doesn't end up getting the shot. And they probably try to make him fight one more time. He says no, retires after that, or he takes that fight and then that becomes his retirement fight. So those are the options that I see it. Islam hinted at a 170 move if JDM wins. Yeah, okay. I mean, Islam Islam can do no wrong right now. So if he wants to try to play that kind of a game, I think that that is ridiculously wild, but, crazier things have happened. If fucking Chama's about to go up to heavyweight, right? Potentially crazier things. Someone recommended you change it to Big Onk after Magomed won. Yeah, I guess I figured that after you told me that that's who you were, but, I mean, I guess that you're that big of a fan, so congratulations for your guy winning. In a dream world, Justin versus Ilya would be a motherfucker of a fight. I mean, yeah, that would be. Justin is too touchable, I think, for that to be as entertaining as a fight as I would think on paper it sounds. Because I think that if Ilya is as powerful at the new weight as he was at featherweight, then I think that it's going to be a bad fight for Justin in that regard. Like Justin, he'll take the damage, of course, but it's Ilya we're talking about. So if the power translates, then I would suspect that would be fun while it lasts. You know what I mean? Like it would be one of those where like they'll probably both go face first into the fire, which we all love and appreciate, a lot of which we did not see on last weekend's card, but I digress. This past yesterday's card. But I think that if that's the case and the power is there, then Ilya probably gets his way pretty quickly. That's where my head would be anyway. If Patty wins versus Chandler, he's a few fights away from a title. Yeah, that's or a title shot. Absolutely. You're right, he is. The organization has wanted it. I think that the organization was pretty upset that pretty upset that Patty Pimblett had the whole situation with Jared Gordon. So now that that's kind of like ushering itself out, and I think Patty is maybe starting to regain a little bit of his grounding with the fan base outside of the UK. That's speculation. I know he is with me anyway. I like Patty at this point. I think Patty has done enough to rehab his image with me. He's not as much of a dickhead as he once was. So I think he's conducting himself pretty maturely at this point. Same with Ian Gary. We were having that discussion in the Discord recently that Ian Gary, I think, is winning a lot of brownie points right now. He's taking fights that nobody else will take. Not complaining about shit. He's always there picking up the phone when they call him. I think that that's admirable. So I would say that, yeah, maybe I don't think it would be immediately after beating Michael Chandler, but it probably would be one or two more maybe. It might even just be one, it depends on how hard they want to try to push him and how well he wins the fight with Chandler. If it goes, 5 rounds into a decision and it's a boring fight, then obviously that's not going to fly. Rick Allen, how are you, sir? Happy Sunday. Did Michael Chandler finally have, oh, Jesus, come on, Rick. Can you put a smile on your face for your boy's birthday, please? I don't see Paddy beating any champion. Ooh, that's spicy. Look, man, Paddy's been counted out for his entire time in the UFC, and he has, at this point, passed every test. So until he proves otherwise, it's the same with Lerone Murphy, right? Lerone Murphy has a fight with, Dan Ige, and we all on last week's fights were saying, the dude looked way more human than he had in the past. I thought that the fight with Edson Barbosa was a superhuman performance. I thought that was a masterclass performance. Fight with Dan Ige, definitely more human. Fight with Josh Emmett, I got a lot of opinions about that. I'll save them for tomorrow night. But the point is that whether you like, hate, or think one way or another about the guy as far as what his skill set will tell you off of the fights that you've seen, the fact is he's winning these fights. So just like Bilal Muhammad, you can make him wait 5 fights, you can make him wait 15 fights. If he's winning all of those fights, eventually you become undeniable. And that is what currently Paddy is doing. So until I see otherwise, same with Lerone and every other fighter who is, on a trajectory like that. So we'll see how it all plays out. Only way Paddy can be champ is if Islam retires. Well, I think that that's probably true for everybody. Look, when Dana was playing the whole pound for pound GOAT bullshit with John Jones and still does to an extent, whatever, this and that, and finally gave in to Islam being the pound for pound GOAT right now, or the pound for pound best fighter in the world, the number 1 pound for pound. I think that was a telling moment. Because even Dana has to understand and admit that Islam is just a different animal. No one can beat Islam, as far as I'm concerned. Again, this is another one where it's like, and everybody will go back to the fight where he got knocked out. Oh, he got knocked out before this and that. That was then, this is now, and what happened all in between that? What happened between that moment and where we are right now? You feel me? So, I think that's what you just said there applies to 100% of the other fighters that don't have the name Islam Makhachev. It's true, bro. Michael Chandler just had a daughter. Okay, well, fair enough then. What color was it? That's a bad joke. And Rick Allen, I hate you for bringing that out of me. You come into this stream, you infect me with that type of humor, that is just unacceptable humor. Anyway, kidding, of course. But congratulations to Michael Chandler for his new child, obviously, if that's the case. I did not know that that his family welcomed a new child. Who has Paddy beat that wasn't at the end of their career? Well, Jared Gordon, I guess. What was that dude's name? Leonardo? The dude he fought at first when he came into the UFC? Yeah, but see, the thing with that division, though, Beeb, is that a lot of guys, that division is screaming for a shakeup right now. That's the problem, is that you've got a bunch of guys in that division that are coming to the end right now. You've got Dustin, Justin, Michael Chandler, whoever the fuck else. It's a hodgepodge of guys who are all circling the top, and the top is the best fighter in the game. So you're gonna have a bunch of crabs in the bucket at the moment, all trying to vie for the top of the spot, but they're all just going to be pulling each other down and going around in circles until new blood is pumped into it and guys retire. So it's not Patty's fault that that's the matchmaking that has been done. I understand the skepticism, though. I mean, you're well within your right to be skeptical of Patty based on what we have seen, but go beat Michael Chandler. That's what we always say on last week's fights. All you have to do is win emphatically, and you shut down the conversation. So that's all Patty has to do right now. We'll see if he can do it. I don't see Patty beating Justin or Olives at all, let alone Islam. I mean, I think that a lot of people would have said the same basic thing about him beating Bobby Green before he triangle armbarred Bobby Green. So could he do that against Justin? Perhaps. Could he knock out Charlie Olives? I mean, that's a little bit more of a tall order, a little bit of a higher proposition, perhaps, but I don't see it as being 100% out of the question. I mean, look, again, dude, we can only go off of the data that we have in front of us right now. And if that is what they want to do and match him up against somebody like that, then get through Michael Chandler, do it emphatically, and shut down that line of thinking is really all that I can say. Because he can go out there and knock out Michael Chandler, which, I mean, how many times? A couple of times that's happened. I mean, you know, we know that Michael Chandler has been put down, but it's not like he is like a super weak chin that gets knocked out all the time. At least I don't think so anyway. I'd have to go back to the Bellator days. But, you know, Michael Chandler is a game opponent, I guess is my point here. So go out there and fucking take Michael Chandler's head off or choke the fuck out of him and prove that you're at the next level, you know? And then later on down the line, he can have the same conversation after he's already been champion for a while where it's, oh, he was never really that good because who did he beat? And this guy was at the end of his career. And the same shit that we talk all the time when somebody falls off. So, yeah, no. When Patty beat Bobby Green, bro was 37 or 38. Yeah, well, I mean, and that's fine, but he still, you know, the power is the last thing to go, and Bobby Green has knockout power. So, you know, he stood with him for a little while before it all went down the way that it went down. It wasn't like he just instantly triangle armbarred him. There was a fight there before that. He held his own in that fight. My point is that if you don't have the killers in front of you, then you become the killer in the front of the pack. You feel me? It's like, it's not, again, this is not, none of this is Patty's fault. All Patty's job is to do is fucking go out and win the fight. So if the organization wants to tee him up softballs, then maybe he ends up just like Sean O'Malley, where you get a couple of softballs thrown your way, a couple of harder fights, you know, a Petr Yan fight, obviously, questionable, debatable there. That maybe is his version of the Jared Gordon fight. You get all the way up to the belt, and then you get an actual killer to come in and take you out. But that doesn't stop the fact that he did everything that he needed to do to get into that position in the first place. So I will believe until I believe no more, until my mind has to be forcibly changed. But right now, I'm okay with Patty getting his shots. And, you know, the UK needs a hero. Molly McCann just retired, people. Come on, let's cut the UK fans some slack. Who's Lerone Murphy again? I don't know. After Saturday, I you know, like I said, mixed feelings. But anyway, he beat Green at his peak. There you go. There's your counter argument. All right, let's get back to this movie Brawler over here. So, as I said, Brawler is an upcoming film that Zack Snyder is going to direct, and it is in conjunction with the UFC. Dana White, His Excellency, Turki Alashikh, they are coming together to make this feature film called Brawler. And there hasn't been a lot of information that has been made public about it just yet, just that it's been announced, basically. And we've had things like this in the past. There have been times where they've announced stuff that hasn't come through. So who knows if this is actually going to happen or not. But as of right now, I mean, we're in an era where the UFC is reigning supreme with the TKO deal and everything that they're getting backing-wise from that organization in conjunction with WWE and the powerhouse that is created under the TKO banner. It's just another expansion. And now, of course, with the Turki Alashikh and Saudi Arabia getting involved, there's massive, massive amounts of money involved in this project, or, you know, in everything that they do, so potentially in this project. So I don't see any reason why this shouldn't happen. So let's see a little bit about what they're saying here. This is from Hype Beast. Zack Snyder has a new gig, and this time it's outside of the thriller action world, stepping into the world of UFC with the help of Dana White and His Excellency Turki Alashikh, chairman of the General Entertainment Authority of Saudi Arabia, as well as owner of boxing magazine The Ring. Snyder has been confirmed to lead the upcoming feature film Brawler. Slated to co-write, produce, and direct the new film about a Los Angeles man who comes up in the world of Ultimate Fighting Championship, Alashikh said in a statement about Snyder, "I've been a fan of Zack's work for years. His unique style, from his iconic action sequences to his sweeping visuals and intensely emotional storytelling, coupled with his humanized portrayal of deeply flawed characters, is singular." See, this is what we're talking about here. The deeply flawed characters. We're already getting into trope territory just in this article, talking about what is going to be in this film. We can already kind of surmise the basic idea of what a character that would be the centerpiece of a movie like this could be. The Sheikh continues, Alashikh continues. I couldn't think of a better person to partner with to bring the UFC to the big screen. The Ring magazine, with its 103-year legacy, will support to ensure the project's success. So this dude has Turki Alashikh. He's got Saudi Arabia backing all of this. CEO of UFC Dana White adds His Excellency Turki Alashikh and Zack Snyder have a shared vision to create a film about UFC. They are both very passionate about this project to show fans what it takes to become a UFC champion. It's an incredibly ambitious project, and I look forward to seeing it come to life. So Dana is on board as well. This is going to be so epic. You know, you thought the Roadhouse movie was epic with Conor McGregor making his acting debut and Jake Gyllenhaal as a UFC fighter. This is even more in-depth. This is going to go deeper. This is going to be like the boxer movie with Christian Bale and, was it Mark Wahlberg, I think? It was either Mark Wahlberg or one of those other Boston guys. You know what I'm talking about. So that's the basic idea of the movie. I guess also Zack Snyder's wife, Deborah Snyder, will co-produce alongside Wesley Collar for their banner Stone Quarry. I guess this is the Stone Quarry production company that is going to be making this film. Shay Hatton and Kurt Johnstad will serve as co-writers of the film. A lot of co-writers writing this thing, none of which have UFC credentials, at least that I know of outwardly, maybe. Maybe one of them does. Snyder said in a statement of his own, "Behind every great fighter is the story of how they got there. UFC is the world leader in combat sports, and I'm honored to be partnering with them to tell this incredible story. Oh, Zach, I cannot wait for your vision, sir." Currently, Snyder is working on an untitled Netflix project, blah, 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 something about the police department. Oh, yeah, and then these last movies that he came out with, I guess this is a good point to wrap this up with, is that Army of the Dead, I think that was one, wait, was that the one that the people liked? That was his, like, first movie? Oh, no, that was the one that people didn't like. That was the one that was, like, out in Las Vegas, right? Army of the Dead and Rebel Moon people fucking hated, from what I understand. I haven't seen either of those, but I know that people had lukewarm feelings about Army of the Dead, and Rebel Moon apparently people really fucking didn't like. So there you go. That is basically the story of the movie Brawler that is going to be coming out. So catch up with you guys here, and then we will take a look at TV tropes to see how many tropes we can identify going into this film that we think we're going to see. Be right back. Hey, Beeb, good to see you, man. Thank you very much for hanging out. Appreciate you. Probably be back when you get back. Why are they putting a midget like Pitbull against 6-foot El Pantera at 314? That's not a fair fight. The size difference is too ridiculous. Bro, if they both are in the same weight class, it's absolutely a fair fight. How many times have we seen shorter fighters beat taller fighters? We literally just saw it this weekend with the GOAT, Torres Finney, getting a win over Robert Valentin. So, midgets should fight other midgets. It's only fair. Untrue statement. Here comes the boom directed by Zack Snyder, basically. It could be a little more serious version of it. I mean, this is going to be the interesting question, right? Is it going to be like a Zack Snyder style film? You know, obviously Zack Snyder has a very definitive style that he usually puts forth in these films. That's why I liked the early ones that I had seen. 300 and Watchmen both have really stylized elements to it. That's why I really liked Sucker Punch. I thought that had a really cool look to it. So, I mean, is it going to be like that? Is it going to be hyper stylized where it's like really contrasted colors and like muted tones and stuff like that? Or very colorful? I don't know. I mean, this is going to be an interesting thing to see that part of it. But I am looking forward to that element of it, to see what it actually looks like as opposed to just what the story is going to be like. But I can almost guarantee you that the story is going to be very basic because Zack Snyder's stories are either written by other people as their source material and they're very complex, or they're like Sucker Punch, where they're sort of basic and written by him as original concepts. So this is an original concept, basically. I don't think it's based on any specific fighter. It's kind of just about a general fighter who starts off in one place and then wants to raise himself up to champion status in the organization. So we'll have to see what the story is actually looking like. I would suspect that it's going to be somewhat close to that Boxer movie. Which movie am I talking about? Is it just called The Boxer? No. Boxer, Christian. Oh, The Fighter. There we go. That's the one I was talking about. Yeah, The Fighter with Christian Bale and Mark Wahlberg, which was a good movie. I enjoyed that movie. I think I have it somewhere around here. I haven't watched it in a while. But I would suspect that it's going to be something like this, but I don't know. We'll find out what tropes we think are going to be in it in a minute. UFC wants Pitbull to lose. Same with Aaron Pico. Why would they want Aaron Pico to lose? They just signed him. Obviously, they're throwing him in pretty high up, going up against Movsar. I've been listening all goddamn day with the Discord saying, oh, why is Aaron Pico getting such a high shot coming in? Aaron Pico has won a lot of fights. That's why. I don't understand this fucking mentality, man. Like, yeah, the level of competition in an outside organization is going to be a little bit less than what you get in the UFC, but you have to do the same things in the UFC at a low level to get to the mid, to get to the high. So yeah, he leapfrogs a little bit of the mid-level, but you don't bring in a guy who's a big name in another organization and have him fighting an unranked guy to begin with, in my opinion anyway, unless he was a middler in that organization. Like, he's already proved himself enough to that level. Let him prove himself enough now. I think that him versus Movsar is a perfect pairing, personally. That's why I think that, Kai Asakura got screwed over coming in and going directly to the title. Kai Asakura should have fought number 4, not going straight to the title. Have them fight number 4. That's a fine place for a dude who did great things in another organization to come into the UFC as. Mario Pinto says that he wants to be in a movie with Tarantino. Maybe he can be in this Brawler film. That Onk. I gotta get used to that now. Big Onk. That's a good question, though, is how many fighters are actually going to be in it, if any, right? I had heard, I think it was Forbes. I read a little piece on Forbes in preparation for this stream saying that they didn't think that there were going to be a lot of actual fighters in this movie, but I think that would be a big mistake for fight fans. I mean, if fighters are doing that French TV show, which I have not seen yet, but I'd like to check out at some point, even though I'm still boycotting Netflix over the Mike Tyson-Jake Paul fight. But I do want to check that show out. obviously that's about MMA in some capacity. If fighters are doing that show, I see no reason that they should not be in this movie as well if they have any semblance of acting chops. So Michael Bisping, get him in there. And of course, bro, Tito Ortiz. How could you forget about the greatest MMA actor of all time? Second only to Dan Severn. I don't know if you've ever seen the Dan Severn clip of him in that Godzilla movie. That's classic shit. Snyder isn't the most funny comedy director. IMO, he does good, dark, gritty fan fiction that he makes up. Yeah, no, Zack Snyder is definitely not making a comedy film. Yeah, no. I mean, if we're talking about Here Comes the Boom, yeah, no, Zack Snyder is not making any comedy films. Although I think that there is actually probably some unintentional potential comedy in a Zack Snyder comedy film. Like if he actually did try to make a comedy film, I think that like the attempt could be funny in and of itself. But no, this is going to be fucking dark, fucking from the streets shit. At least I would think so. Here Comes the Boom is one of your favorites. It's been so long since I saw that movie. I saw that movie before I was really like fully 100% invested in MMA the way that I am now. I got to rewatch that with my current self. You know, I got to see if I can find that on streaming. Maybe I'll do that after this stream. Big name is crazy. Yeah, I know. Cyril Gahn, perfect for the Brawlers movie. How is his acting in that show? Movie on Netflix called Hustle starred a lot of actual NBA players, and it was very good. Not going to lie, I hope this movie ends up being like that. A very real take on getting into the NBA. Okay, well then there you go. Maybe that could be the basis for it. If it's on Netflix, Snyder is finishing out his obligations to Netflix. They just said in this article. I guess he has a couple other Netflix things that he has to get out of the way. So maybe a little bit of Netflix influence, maybe a little bit of influence on the Netflix deal with the UFC. This could all be tying in together. We might be going galaxy brain right now, people. This could be like all splintering and spider webbing into each other here. Zack Snyder, Netflix, Dana White, Turki Alashikh. I think it all is fitting together. I think that we're going 4D chess over here. Adam Sandler was in that movie? About NBA players? I guess he is like a basketball guy, right? Completely living up to the Jews and basketball stereotype, which is absolutely true, by the way. Back in the day, at one time, very, very briefly, I went to a Hebrew after-school program. Like, I wasn't involved in like the religious part of it. It was just the after-school part of it. But like for a very brief amount of time, I went to this like Hasidic after-school thing. And those motherfuckers love some basketball, bro. Like in that Uncut Gems movie where the one dude's like, what is it with you Jewish guys in basketball? Like, I was like, bro, talk about somebody who knows ball. That is some shit. Young Jewish kids love some basketball. I don't really fully understand it, but whatever. Because they ain't tall. They're not particularly great at it. At least from what I've seen. Name a great Jewish basketball player. Chase, maybe you can help me out with that one. All right, so now we know a little bit about the Brawler movie. We know a little bit about what this Brawler movie is going to be. So let's take a look at this website here. This is TV Tropes. If you're not familiar with tvtropes.org, it expands to films as well. But this is just a collection of all of the tried and true elements that you've seen a lot, traditional story, plot points, and contrivances and things like that that go into movies and films and stories in general. So, if you're not familiar with what a trope is in general, that's basically what it is. It's like a catchphrase is a trope. You know, somebody who comes into the room and says, like Norm from Cheers. That's a trope. You know, a bunch of people sitting around and all yelling at a person when they come into the room. Trope. Around the smoking circle and that 70s show. That's a trope in and of itself at this point now. There's a couple of things like that. I'm sure that you can think of more of them. The new additional baby or younger character on a sitcom, You know, after a sitcom's been running for a long time, I think on the Brady Bunch, it was Cousin Oliver or, you know, something along those lines. That's a trope. So we're going to hit the random trope button here, and we're going to see if the trope that comes up is something that can be applied to the Brawler movie, and we'll rate it on a scale of 1 to 10. Why I oughta. There you go. Great example of it. Tropes, a lot of great tropes were developed in the 60s and 50s. And there you go. That's certainly one of them. That's like, I mean, that's even earlier than that. That's like 40s and 30s, I want to say, with the Three Stooges. But a little bit later on after that was The Honeymooners, which is a fantastic show. Jackie Gleason and Art Carney. Absolutely a show that I really, really enjoy a lot. I'm a big fan of sitcoms. I have an affinity for classic sitcoms. I grew up on like the 80s, 70s sitcoms that used to air on Nick at Night. Even earlier than that, Bewitched and I Dream of Jeannie, and you know, a whole bunch of sitcoms were like an early comedy influence on me. And then even earlier stuff with like the Marx Brothers actually is like my earliest comedic influences. So I'm a big fan of tropes and how they're used. I like to see tropes turned on their ear. However, in a Zack Snyder movie, I'm not so sure it's actually going to be turned on its ear. So we'll take a look here in a minute. Jewish guys in basketball seems oddly racist these days. They're always blamed for shitty ownership. Well, I mean, yeah, Jews are going to be blamed for whatever people want to blame them for because Jews are easy scapegoats. I think that's the way that I look at it anyway. Jews are just like any other people. Like, you know, there are Jewish basketball team owners. I'm sure that there are plenty of team owners from other religions and ethnic backgrounds, but it's just an easy go-to to apply negativity to Jewish people because that's just the culture that we live in right now. And everybody's angry and everybody's upset with each other and everyone is heightened in the way that they view the world. So if I can pick out an identifiable characteristic about you and apply a whole lot of negativity to it, I will. You know, and then it's easy and it makes me feel good. Oh, it's not me. It's not my people that do those things. It's not something that I have any control over. It's the Jews. I can't control what the Jews do. It's the Jews. It's massive. You know what I mean? It's this cabal. It's this, you know, new world order that they have that's somewhere that I was never called and consulted about. I'm still waiting for my gold. Never gave me my bag of gold. But I'm talking about actual Jewish basketball players because Jewish kids just love to play basketball, but I don't know if any have ever made it to the NBA. So if you know of any amazing Jewish basketball players, please let me know. I want to learn. I want somebody that I can support in the sports world besides Sandy Koufax and Natan Levy, who unfortunately got cut from the UFC. For no reason, by the way. Just cut him out of nowhere. Random. Oddly close to when Bryce Mitchell said what he said. Not saying anything. Just saying. All right, let's get into some of these tropes. Let's start it off. All right, dropped glasses. This is a perfect one to start off with, okay? So any character who wears glasses is blind without them. There you go, another trope right there. Which is to say, almost every character who wears glasses on TV lives in fear of dropping or losing their spectacles because invariably some helpful but elephantine bystander might promptly step forward to help look for them and immediately crush them under their foot. We know this trope. We are familiar with this trope. Person falls, loses their glasses, they're stumbling around for them, and what happens? Somebody comes over and steps on them. Does this happen in the Brawler movie? Let's see how this could happen. All right, so backstage at an event, and it's not the fighter, it's one of the coaches. And the coach is a great coach, but he has, over time, he's an older coach. And over time, the vision has started to go. So he needs his glasses. And he's like the point guy as the corner man, right? Like he's the main corner man. And so he bumps into somebody backstage. He's talking to a tech, or a stagehand or somebody. They're going over, okay, you're going to come out at this time. You're going to walk with him. You're going to be, this guy's carrying the bucket, blah, 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 all that stuff. And what happens? Boom. Guy gets knocked in the side. Glasses fall off. He's on the ground just like Velma over here. He's looking for him. A lot of commotion going backstage. It's a big event. It's UFC 400. He's searching for his glasses. Boom. Somebody steps on the glasses. Now the head coach, the main corner man, is blind and cannot see the action of his fighter in a pivotal fight. I'm giving this one a 5 out of 10. I think it's right in the middle as to whether or not something like this could happen in the movie. Let me know what you guys think. Cut for wanting to smoke Hitler protege. I would have thought that they would have loved that fight. I have no idea. And also, there's still other Israeli fighters in the organization. Anton Levy was winning. So I really don't understand why they cut him. If they cut Yanal Ashmuz now, then maybe there's something to look at. But I don't think Ari Emanuel is going to let that happen, right? I'm kidding. Glasses equals nerd. This movie won't have a nerd because Zack Snyder makes Chads only with huge chins, Affleck and Cavill. I think I laid out a pretty good case, though. Like, it's the older coach, a guy who is still a Chad, but like he's an aged Chad. You know what I mean? He had his time. He's like fucking Josh Barnett at the 105 last event on Saturday. Josh Barnett with that huge ass beard, like an absolute fucking legend that he is. And don't get it twisted. Josh Barnett is a fucking G. Catch weight legend for sure. But so I think that that's what it is, right? He is a former Chad, still Chadly, but age comes for us all. So he's helping the next generation, but he's talking, he's bouncing all over the place backstage. Glasses drop. He don't have contact lenses in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, where this major event is taking place. UFC 400, maybe not Milwaukee, but, it could happen. I liked your theory, though, because I was shooting it down without giving a thought. You did good. Bro, this is what I do. This is why I was so excited about doing this stream, because this is like the perfect intersection of where my writer brain and my MMA brain can cross over. Because if you don't know, what I do when I'm not doing MMA content is I am writing screenplays and television stuff. Like, that's what I like to do. That's one of the things I'd like to explore in life, as well as what I do for MMA and, on the channel and stuff. So I'm constantly thinking in these terms. So I'm having a good time with this already. His girlfriend will get knocked around and glasses fall, and he'll have to come beat someone up in a bar. Then they're like, dude, you should join a club. That's another great one. Yeah, that's another great one. I mean, girl getting roughed up in bar in and of itself is its own trope, though. Not roughed up like, beaten, but like, bounced around like somebody knocking into her kind of thing, spilling drink kind of thing. That's its own trope. So I would separate those two, but that's another great trope. That one, that's like an 8 out of 10 trope right there for this movie. I like that one a lot, Chase. I think you're onto something there. Let's see what else we got here. Non-powered costume hero. It is a Zack Snyder movie. It is a Zack Snyder film. It is a Zack Snyder movie. She doesn't need powers to kick your ass. If it's about the UFC, there could be. What was the dude's name? The fucking guy that was the superhero. People wanted me to do a video about that guy, man. I should probably get on that at some point. What was that vigilante guy's name? Oh, God. UFC vigilante crime fighter. Still spelled vigilante wrong. Not Kane. Already did the video about Kane. God. UFC superhero. It is not Henry Cejudo. Why the fuck would AI tell me that Henry Cejudo is the superhero? There we go. Phoenix. Yeah. Phoenix Jones. That's his name. There we go. Phoenix Jones. Yeah, this guy. So Phoenix Jones, if you're not aware, is a dude who fashioned himself as a real-life superhero. So pretty much exactly what this trope is, a non-powered costume superhero. And he also fought in the UFC. There we go. Yeah. Ben Fodor began his amateur MMA career in December of 2006. Over the next 4 years, he amassed a record of 15-2. Damn, that's not a bad record at all. That's only as an amateur, though. As a pro, Fodor made his pro MMA debut in 2013 for Cage Warrior Combat, based in his native Washington state. Fodor is the younger foster brother of Strikeforce UFC veteran Karos Fodor. That's, that might be a little bit before my time, but there you go as well. So him and his adopted brother, just like the Shamrocks. His pro record. Okay, hold on a second. On March 11th, 2015, he announced that he was signing an exclusive deal with World Series of Fighting. Oh, so I guess he didn't end up actually fighting in the UFC? I guess he did these offshoot organizations and didn't actually make it to the UFC proper. My bad. I thought he actually fought in the UFC. So he fought in the World Series of Fighting, which of course became the PFL. And he fought under the pseudonym Phoenix Jones. Good for him. He lost the fight via unanimous decision. And it was his first loss in his professional career, leaving with a record of 5 wins, 1 draw, and 1 loss. Still not a bad record for pro, honestly. 5-1-1. Not bad. Yeah, this isn't that Cage Warriors, though. This is Cage Warrior Combat. Swizzy. W? I'll take it. W. Got it on the soundboard. Thank you. Hope you have a good stream. Hey, much appreciated, bro. Much appreciated. Thank you for checking in, my dude. If you're not following, follow already. I do watch-alongs for every UFC event. We talk a lot of MMA on this channel. Yeah, so this is Cage Warrior Combat, though. I wonder if that promotion is even still around anymore. Yeah, I don't think so. I think that is long gone at this point. Yeah, they haven't updated their page since 2016. The Cage Warrior Combat has gone the way of the dodo. Any page left? Not looking like it. Yeah, website not working anymore. Unfortunate. But anyway. So I say all of that to say, will we see a non-powered costume superhero in the Zack Snyder Brawler movie? Well, I would suspect not. But again, it is a Zack Snyder movie. So could there be... Okay, this is how you do it. You have it on the TV. You have it on the TV, and what it is you have the main character watching TV, and... No, okay. You have the main character training, and his homeboy, who's like his sidekick, but is not a fighter. He's like the turtle from Entourage kind of guy, right? So he's watching TV. This guy's hitting the speed bag. And he's watching and he's seeing on TV, he's like, man, everybody thinks that they're a fighter nowadays. Look at this guy over here. He's out here patrolling the streets. He should be in the cage. And then it's a non-powered costume superhero. That's how you get it in there. And Zack Snyder can cut to that, and it's like a hyper-stylized little number for a minute. And this dude's like, dead or alive, you're coming with me, like Judge Dredd. And then it cuts back into the gym where the dude's still hitting the speed bag. And he's like, that's so whack, blah, 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 man. Only real badasses are inside of the cage. They're not out there in the streets wearing spandex, blah, 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 blah. I'm still thinking this is maybe a 2 out of 10 trope for this movie. I don't think that it's very likely that this is going to happen. But if you wanted to know how I would get it in there, that's how you do it. You have it as a news story on the TV that his friend who's watching TV while he trains sees and relays the information, and it somehow ties in to the broader story. Like, these guys are dorks. real fighters fight in cages. Let's see another one here. Grandpa God. I am not familiar with this one, maybe, or maybe I am. God, when given a visual appearance in media, usually appears as an old, bearded man with white hair and robes. He also has an undeniable air of wise authority, possibly glows or has a holy backlight, and has a booming authoritarian yet somehow understanding voice. Okay, so this is just like that type of portrayal of God. This trope absolutely could make it into the movie, and I'll tell you how. This is when it's towards the end of the movie, or maybe not even the end of the movie. This is like the 3/4 of the way through the movie point where we're trying to get him to overcome the greatest obstacle so that he can finally achieve the goal. And he gets knocked out. Or he's like not knocked out, but he's like dazed, right? He's like, you know, the lights kind of shut off for a second there, and it flashes real quick to behind his eyes. Like, you know, so he gets, it's almost like what happened to Drew Dober a couple weeks ago. He gets hit real quick, goes down, everything goes white. And in that moment, we zoom to the Grandpa God. And Grandpa God's like, Steve, how much do you want to be a champion? God, I want it more than anything that I've ever wanted in my entire life, God. Then why are you talking to me right now and not fighting that dude who's punching you? And then Steve's like, yo, God, that's a great point though. And then it's like, reverses, you know, goes backwards and reverse, and he like comes to, and he's like, holy shit, I'm still in the fight. Bum, 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 bum. 6 out of 10. This probably can translate to a wise coach after he dies in the movie in some tragic way. Oh yeah, like a Shooter McGavin kind of situation, right? Or not Shooter, but the coach in Happy Gilmore. Was that Shooter? That was the guy he was against, right? It's been a while since I've seen Happy Gilmore. When he needs a big speech to get up. Yeah, exactly. So if it's not Grandpa God specifically, then it's like all of the trappings of Grandpa God. Like they're talking about the holy backlight and the booming voice and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, all of that could definitely be the wise coach for sure. I think you're right about that one. But I still think that this one has potential to make it in there. So I spill water all over myself. Good look. I think that this is, I'm sticking with my original assessment here. I think that this is like, I'm gonna drop it down a little bit. I think I'm gonna drop this one down to like a 5 with the caveat being that what you just said, Chase, could be the extra on that. You know what I mean? Like if it's gonna be in that form, then I'll bump it up to a 7. Viking funeral. Oh, I love this. A subtrope of burial at sea in which the deceased, usually a warrior but not necessarily a Viking, is laid in a boat with his effects, such as a sword, and set out to drift at sea. Then a character, usually someone with emotional ties to the dead or simply the most skilled archer present, lights a flaming arrow and shoots it at the sail. The ship is then engulfed in a flame and slowly breaks up and sinks. We know what a Viking funeral is. That's actually a pretty decent description of it. How do we get a Viking funeral into this story? He trains with a dude from Sweden. Robert Valentine comes in from Switzerland. There you go. Robert Valentine is one of his training partners. And like, maybe this guy becomes Robert Valentine's friend. We know that Robert needs friends. By the way, Robert Valentine, especially after losing to Torres Finney, bro, if you're still looking for friends, we will be your friends right here on the Yama channel. You can come and hang out with us. Me and Chase will absolutely hang out and you know, you can talk to us about how mountain life is and all of your love of anime and stuff like that. That's probably more for the Vitz King, the anime stuff, but like there are people who will be your friend out there, brother. Just wanted you to know that. Anyway, so Robert Valentine is the guy in the movie, and like, you know, maybe that one friend that Robert Valentine already has tragically passes away. Only in the movie. Obviously, I don't want this to happen in real life. But in the movie, his buddy tragically passes away. And so the main character, this is like showing that he's like becoming more cultured over time, because he like starts off as like a street guy from LA who's never been outside of Los Angeles, never been outside of California. So he's not really very familiar with the rest of the world. He's kind of insulated into his own world, but he starts training with guys from Switzerland. He's training with guys from international places that he's never been to or thought about. And it's like, want to come over and witness this Viking funeral? This is something that I think would be good for both of us. So they travel back to that person's native land. His friend is set out adrift. Viking funeral. I'm still going to give this one a low score as well. I think it's unlikely that we see a Viking funeral. We could also see it in a flashback or like a mental conjuring. That's the other caveat to all of this, is that any trope that we're talking about could happen within like a dream state or, a vision. So that's like always like the backdoor way to get anything in, is if you just show it in like vision form. But, we won't rely on that one too much. So if we're talking strictly in reality in the movie, I'm thinking this is probably pretty low. I'll give this one a 3 out of 10. But I think it would be awesome to see a Viking funeral in there. I think Viking funeral has some great potential. What else we got? Scavenged punk. What does that mean? Scavenged punk is a stylized setting that focuses on technology and culture based on an unusual source. Scavenged junk. Weapons, tools, clothing, and sometimes entire cities will be built out of repurposed materials. Oh, this is like, okay, yeah, I know what they're talking about here. This is like, yeah, this little guy is like a little troll guy, and like his entire village is made out of like cardboard pieces and old string and like the Littles. The Littles? You ever heard of the Littles? This is kind of obscure at this point. I don't know if anybody would know about the Littles, but the Littles. Yeah, these guys, the Littles. So the Littles were like exactly that. Like, it's basically like little small people that like their entire world is like, you can see here, this chick's got a big old button, and they're threading a big needle or whatever. So everything is big to them. So, small stuff to us is big to them. Have any other like actual just screenshots? Yeah, there you go. Everybody riding on the back of a skunk because they're all so tiny. But even not super tiny people, I would think, could fall into this category. I guess a good example of that would be like in post-apocalyptic movies where shelters are created out of, scrap heap stuff. You've got a shack made out of corrugated metal. Like District 9 would be a good example of that, the way that the prawns all lived. I think that this is a 0 out of 10 trope for this movie, though. There's no way that any of this is going to happen in the Brawler movie. But how do you fit it in there? This one's a tough one. This one would be if the Zack Snyder, vision is larger than the vision of like Dana and Alashikh. You know what I mean? If like Zack Snyder gets to go like really avant-garde, which he can do, because he did go kind of steampunk in Sucker Punch for that one segment. I would think that there's probably some potential for him to do some like alternative university kind of stuff if we're going to get like abstract, but I highly doubt that they're going to go abstract with this story. Although, to be perfectly honest, it kind of would be fucking awesome if they did go abstract. There's apparently a couple of animes that are like about fighters, and they like apply anime like conventions to it, anime tropes, so to speak. They apply those to the fight world, and like I think that that's a really cool concept. Let me see what MMA anime. Is there an MMA anime? Grappler Baki and Kengan Ashura. Vivid Strike. Literally Magical Girl MMA? I don't want to touch that link. Anything with the word girl in it could be instant TOS, but... So yeah, I mean, there you go. A couple of these guys. Anime-related... or MMA-related anime, rather. Beeb, welcome back. What did you miss? Well, we've gotten into the tropes here. So what we're doing right now is we are going through tropes and conventions that you typically see in movies and television shows, and we're seeing how likely it is that they're going to be in the upcoming Brawler movie. The movie called Brawler that Zack Snyder is directing in conjunction with the UFC and Turki Alashikh. So we've gone through a couple of them. This one, not a great example. This is probably, I'd say maybe a 1 out of 10 on the likeliness scale. But that's only dependent on if Zack Snyder goes like kind of avant-garde and off the beaten path with it. But let's go to another one and I'll show you what I'm talking about here. Drinking on duty. This is a perfect one for an example. Okay, so drinking on the job is a trope that you sometimes see in film and television. Bob's indulging in an adult beverage or 2 or 3 or 4 while he's supposed to be on duty. So this is like your classic security guard taking a swig, or, any person who's supposed to be doing a job and then is drinking while on that job. How likely is that to show up in this movie? I think that this is like this might even be like an 8 or a 9 out of 10, because I guarantee you that there's going to be a bar scene in this movie where there's a bartender taking shots with the fighter and his crew or whatever, or like a shot girl or something like that. Somebody working at the club taking a shot. So I'd say that this is like an 8 or a 9 out of 10 trope to be included in the Brawler movie. Good example for Beeb, who is just returning to us. If you want to go even farther out of the way, I could see it possibly being maybe a different fighter. Maybe there's a fight. Maybe that's part of the story of how he gets into fighting in the first place, where he's in like a regional promotion or an even smaller fight promotion, and a fighter who's supposed to fight ends up getting drunk before the fight. Technically drunk while he's supposed to be not drunk. He has a job to do and he's not doing it. Or maybe the promoter is drunk at the regional promotion. That's another way you could fit it in. So, yeah, I think that this is a pretty strong one right here, that this could be included in the movie. Hijacking Cthulhu. Oh, this is only from one South Park episode. Come on. We'll skip this one. My high school history teacher would bring a thermal full of liquor to class, and the principal ended up walking in on him one day drinking, and he ended up getting arrested and fired. No shit. Really? God damn, dude. Yeah. I don't want to go too into detail about this because I don't want to give too much away about certain things, but where I used to work, this is a couple of jobs ago, we were in a job that involved heavy things. We were involved in a job where there were pieces of equipment that were very large and heavy, and a lot of chain motors and things that moved other pieces around. This is all live entertainment based, I guess I should say. And at that job, we had a very similar situation to what you just outlined, where there was a guy who used to, I guess, bring in soda bottles and would fill them with, he'd have them filled up with Coca-Cola, but it was always spiked. And at some point, somebody thought that it was their Coke and took a drink of the Coke and said, wait a second, this is not my Coke. And wait a second, this is also filled with alcohol. And apparently that person was asked to leave the premises and did not return. So I am familiar with that as well. But that is crazy that happened in high school. I didn't know. I guess I did kind of know that was an arrestable offense, right? But I guess in part I'm kind of curious about that one. Like he got arrested for that. I guess because you're supervising the children, so you can't supervise children while impaired. Drunk in public, I guess maybe. What was the charge? Do you know? Nick Diaz was high as fuck when he go plotted Gomi. Let's go. Yeah, high on the job and drunk on the job. Different but similar. UFC 314 is an irrelevant card outside of the main event. Rick Allen, there is no such thing as irrelevant cards, brother. And if you're so unhappy with the card, don't watch it. No one's forcing you to watch it. Just tune in the next day and catch the highlights. All right, so back to the tropes here. The end of the world as we know it. I like this one. The trope does not refer to the condition in the REM song that is the trope namer for this trope, where Michael Stipe sings, "It's the end of the world as we know it, and I feel fine." Rather, it's the exact opposite. Yeah, this is what happens when it's the end of the world as we know it, and you do not feel fine. You're not happy with it. This is what happens if the heroes don't stop the evil plan from doing its nasty work. It can be either supernatural or super science, depending on the villain, but in either case, the bad guy must be beaten down and his toys broken in order to save the planet or the universe, depending on the focus of the story. Yeah. Okay. So again, this one I think is probably highly unlikely to be in the Brawler movie unless Zack Snyder goes artsy with it. We have to find out if Zack Snyder is going to have artistic license with this movie. Is he going to be able to push the boundaries of what the UFC thinks a movie should be versus what super cool, crazy shit Zack Snyder can dream up and pull out of his ass? So if he's going to go artsy, I'll give it maybe a 2 out of 10. But I think that even if it's because there could be, if he goes artsy with it, there could be that moment where third or second act kind of thing where everything goes to shit. It's the end of the world as we know it. And the main hero has to fight for the UFC title in order to restore the world to order. But I think that that's going to be a bridge too far for Zack Snyder / the UFC and Turki Alashikh. So I'm giving this one a low mark. I think this is a 2 out of 10 trope for the Brawler movie, unless it is very avant-garde, very strange. You have no idea what the charge was? I was just curious because, I sort of vaguely recognize that, obviously I recognize that you should not be drinking while you're teaching and while you're in the custodianship of children, but I'm just curious what the actual, legitimate charge was, what did they actually book him for? Just whether it was drunk in public or something otherwise. Just interesting to me, but sad that your teacher had a drinking problem. Was it very obvious beforehand? Was he slurring his words and stuff, or was he a high functioning alcoholic where it was just kind of so deeply ingrained that you didn't even have any clue? And of course your kids too. So it's high school kids. I think even high school kids probably would recognize it though. Play every day. This is when a game encourages you to play every day. Well, I don't think that this applies to movies. We'll skip this one. Water source tampering. Let's see if this has any basis in the Brawler movie. Oh, it was totally obvious. Damn. So, yeah, maybe it was a long time coming then. Maybe somebody had said to the principal, "Hey, man, buddy over here, buddy over here is getting a little saucy on the job." But look, dude, I can't really clown any person who goes through stuff like that because life is hard. Life is hard. People cope with it in different ways. I think that alcoholics get an understandably bad rap in some respects, but I think that there's a distinct lack of compassion when it comes to alcoholism. And I think that's unfortunate because it's a legitimate problem and a lot of people just can't overcome it. And it's easy for people who don't struggle with it to say, just stop drinking. Like, yeah, of course, just stop drinking. It's an easy thing to say. It's a very hard thing for people to do. There are a lot of people who will destroy their bodies and still drink to the point where they ultimately end themselves. And that's how you know how strong that compulsion is. So I have compassion for that. Jimmy was going through a nasty divorce, lost the house and the car, and he rode a bike to work, and the kids at your school snapped the lock and stole his bike. Oh, damn, dude. This guy was already going through it. Kids are so fucking cruel, dude. Kids are absolutely cruel. I was listening to someone talking about that show Adolescence that's on Netflix. I think it's on Netflix. It's like a show that's about like kids and like the dangers of the internet and stuff like that. And it's just like kids are young versions of what they will become when they're adults. They're evil as kids and they become sometimes even worse adults. Like sometimes kids grow out of the horror shows that they are when they're children, but often they do not. And that's what really scares me in life. I don't have any children currently, but if I was to have a child at some point, I would be very concerned about them being raised with the state of the world and how humanity is. Now and has always been. We've been like this since we crawled out of the goddamn ocean. Spoken like a true alkie? Yeah, spoken like a true fucking prick, Rick Allen. Have a little compassion. Fear of drinking water is a classic paranoia, especially since in medieval times or earlier, it could be quite difficult to come by a clean water supply. Just imagine what it was like in the days before water filtration and the only river within miles had thousands of people throwing all their waste, including biological wastes, into it upstream. And thus, a well could be the center of life for miles around. If anything happened to it or anyone tried to contaminate it, you'd never know until it was too late. Ooh. Yeah, I don't think that water source tampering should be one that we see in the Zack Snyder Brawler movie. However, how do you fit it in? Tell you exactly how you fit it in. You get another fighter from a developing nation. This is a fighter like Musasa, coming out of the Democratic Republic of Congo, or maybe like somebody from like rural Cambodia, or like the places that are still up and coming in the fight world, and at home not necessarily the most politically stable, economically enriched areas of the world. You have a fighter who fought through all of the odds to overcome all of that and made it to the UFC. And he's doing it in the UFC. In his post-fight interview, the main character is sitting there backstage and he's watching the monitor before he goes out to fight. And he's listening to the post-fight interview, octagon interview from the last guy. And that guy is a dude who's fighting for his home country. And he's saying he's doing it because back home, they're tampering with the water supply. And so he has to raise international awareness for this. And right as he's about to go into the next part of his speech, Michael Bisping does the classic, take the mic and turn away. Okay, we hope that everything goes really well back home for you. Ladies and gentlemen, Gerald Madambada. And the guy's like, wait. Mike's like, no. So there you go. Does water source tampering enter into the equation for the Brawler movie? I'd say probably a 2 out of 10. The Cutie. The cutie is a character who is known for being sweet and lovable, a fountain of heartwarming moments, more comedic relief than anything, who likes nothing more than to pet little creatures. They make you adore them, root for them, love them, and want to hug them, or they can make your teeth rot. I like this as a trope for this exercise. The cutie. So how would the cutie be applied to the Zack Snyder Brawler movie? Main character has a young child sidekick who looks up to him. You know, a kid who's not biologically related to him, but he took him under his wing and is cheering him on. Oh, I got it. It's Cody Garbrandt and that young kid who he gave the belt to. That was like his friend. I mean, that's a little, I don't know if that's like the sick kid trope. I think that's a little bit different. The cute, because like I know what they're talking about here. It's like Ed from Cowboy Bebop almost. How do you have a character that's just like that? Okay, I'll tell you. So you have a media liaison who is the coordinator between fighters and interview people and interviewers and media personnel. And that character is just one that's full of happiness and is just really nice and sweet, offering a little bit of comedic relief when everything's getting really dark. They're just a ray of sunshine while everything is really dark and drab backstage and gritty and real. I like that. Do I think it's going to be to this extent, to the cutie, the way that they're describing it? Probably not. But I would say that this one holds a little bit more weight. I'll give this a potential 4 out of 10 possibility in the Zack Snyder Brawler film. What else we got? Weapon twirling. Oh, this one absolutely could be in the movie. Let's fucking go. It's well known that when it comes to fictional fight scenes, what looks exciting and cool is far more important than what would be effective in real life. Yo, if that could not be applied to this movie, I don't know what could be. I think that that's going to be an interesting element of this movie, is to see how much hyper-stylized fight sequences we get out of it. Are we going to be seeing a lot of guys doing like jumping punches where they're like lunging forward in a jumping, like almost like a tiger pouncing on something, where it's like slow motion, you know, that type of shit? We could see some of that. That's where weapon twirling comes in, because spinning is spectacular. It's visually interesting and looks like it may be difficult to pull off, and is thus cool. It's also used when a character would otherwise be standing idly, since someone just standing around with a weapon isn't as interesting as that person doing fancy tricks with that weapon. Yeah, that's going to be how this comes into play. I'd say that this is like a 7 out of 10 trope for this. Obviously, Buddy is in the same bar with the dude who's drinking on the job, the bartender or the lady bartender, the shot girl. He's in the bar. The dudes who want to fight him, because of course they want to fight him for some reason, random, whatever, bumps into somebody, this and that. One of those guys, twirling a knife, does the little butterfly flippy dip thing, you know, with the butterfly knife. Chase Parton knows a thing or two about that. Chase Parton knows a thing or two about a lot of knives. Good Lord. You want to see a nice knife collection? Talk to Chase. But so there you go. Weapon twirling. I'd say, yeah, 7 out of 10 possibility here. Somebody comes in, or you get somebody inside of the gym. You know, he's entering the gym for the first time. They've got a like actual karate component to the gym, and some dude is doing nunchucks, so he starts doing a little twirling of the nunchucks. I could see this happening. Solid trope. Electronic telepathy. Electronic telepathy, or e-telepathy, is a subtrope of telepathy. In most cases, characters using telepathic powers will do so by using some kind of supernatural force or a highly evolved biological mechanism that comes thanks to being a sufficiently advanced alien. However, in some cases, a character will have no natural or supernatural telepathic ability and instead uses brain/computer interface to gain this power. In this form of telepathy, thoughts are converted from impulses in the brain, electric activity produced by neuron reaction potentials, into digital signals that can be broadcast artificially to another e-telepath using radio waves or some form of wireless communication. This is something that probably would have been seen more so in the Rebel Moon movie that Zack Snyder just released recently that everyone hated, but could it be in the Brawler movie? This is a hard one to try to fit into this movie. You'd really have to shoehorn this thing in here. How do you do it? Okay. Again, this is getting into the avant-garde style of film that Zack Snyder very well could try to pull off. But what happens? Your main character is a genetically modified fighter. The UFC has done away with drug testing protocols and has leaned into it a la the untested games. What is that thing called? The steroid Olympics? You know what I'm talking about? What were those called? I wanted to say that they were called the enhanced games. There you go. Thank you, Google. Yes, a la the enhanced games. The UFC has said, you know, all of these fighters are juicing anyway. Let them not only juice, but take it 3 steps farther. This guy is a cyborg now. He has electronic components like Deus Ex. You know the game Deus Ex? Cool game series. Game that I like to watch. I never played it, but I like to watch the long plays of it because it's got a cool story and it's interesting. So in that game, people are enhanced and modified with machinery. So the lines between man and machine are meshed and merged. I think that happens here. You've got this guy who's going to be the next champion of the UFC after they've done away with drug testing protocols, and he is enhanced and modified in a way that makes him almost superhuman, but everybody is a superhuman now. So we're seeing an evolved next level of fighting in general. Almost like that Real Steel movie. You remember Real Steel? Man, you're getting all the references today, dude. Fucking The Littles, Real Steel, The Enhanced Games, Phoenix Jones. Man, I know a lot of useless shit. Anyway, it's like the Real Steel movie, except it's the actual people themselves, and they're genetically enhanced and modified and upgraded with machinery. So this guy who's the main character is one of these people who's upgraded. And he has a brain-computer interface, as they're describing here, and he can telepathically communicate with his coach, so he's getting real-time coaching instructions while he's in the cage. I love it. That actually has some like legitimate potential to be a cool movie if they did make something like that. Honestly, I'm telling you, man, I come up with movie ideas like all the fucking time on stream, so somebody needs to start making some of these movies. A movie where it's a fight organization with no enhancement rules, cyborg fight league. I'm down with that idea. I actually might write that one down later. So for this movie with Zack Snyder, probably 1 out of 10. But for Thinker St. James MMA movie, could be very well higher. Neologizer? Neologizer. When a character tries to be cool by enhancitizing his speech patterns with what he thinks are perfectly cromulent words or phrases. What is a perfectly cromulent word or phrase? A character quotes a seemingly made-up word that no one has ever heard of before then. This is usually a word the writer just made up, but is occasionally a real obscure, archaic... Oh, okay, so this is when somebody's trying to, like, sound smarter than they are. And, like, does it by using words that are not real, but sound like they're fancy. This is like a fucking, almost like another 8 out of 10. I'd say, I was going to say it might be a 10 out of 10 trope, because like something like that could absolutely happen in the Brawler movie. You know, maybe this is where Nate Diaz makes his cameo. And he tries to form a cogent sentence. And somehow a word or phrase that has never been uttered before in the history of mankind naturally comes out. And the Zack Snyder, the director, is like, I think we'll leave it in. I think it sounded smart. So yeah, I'm thinking that this one is a solid... I'll be a little conservative. I'll say that it's maybe like a 7 out of 10, but I'm leaning more towards an 8. Closer to an 8 than a 7. 7.5, closer to an 8 than a 7. Shout out to YMS. How do you get it in the movie? I mean, that's an easy one. You know, you just have one of his friends, or his, you know, how about the rival fighter? His opponent is somebody who's trying to sound smarter than they are. I'm going to turn your face into Smashavidius. Smashavidius? The fuck does that mean? Oh, you know what it means. Don't try to act smart, motherfucker. You know what it means. You know what the fuck I was trying to say, bitch. Easy. Values dissonance. I just like going through this wiki, by the way. If you haven't caught on by now, this is certainly something that I find very enjoyable. Just learning about tropes that I've never thought of or considered before. Tropes are common denominators. Their viewers recognize them, laugh at them, or groan at them, but most of us can guess where they're coming from, specifically what cultural values are embodied in the trope. Unfortunately, some tropes don't travel or age very well. They're fine on their home turf, where everyone understands them and knows what value system they're based on. When that trope makes the trip to another country, however, it gets seasick on the way over, arriving at the port looking distinctly disheveled and finding itself amongst strangers who have no idea what it's talking about. Okay. I need to see like an example of what this means. Do they have like examples? I mean, this says examples, but is this... Oh, okay. So these are their own examples. Okay, so let's see. Let's see I Love Lucy. Oh, okay. So they're saying that this being from the 50s, the values of the tropes that we saw are uniquely confined to the 1950s, and thus seeing them through our current modern lens is a values dissonance. I see. And the girls want to go to a nightclub. Lucy and Ethel lie that they have dates to make an excuse to go without their husbands. In the 21st century, they'd be able to go on their own without needing a date. Okay. So, all right, I see what they're talking about here. So, I mean, I guess in reality, then, based on this movie being a new release, then in the most strict of terms, we couldn't have this unless it was specifically citing one of them from an older era in like a flashback or in TV footage, or film footage or something like that, specifically to call attention to it. But what you could have is tropes within this movie that 50 years from now will become their own version of values dissonance based on the time that has elapsed. It's an interesting kind of paradigm there. I like this exercise. I'm having fun. I don't know if there's anybody still listening or hanging out with me at this point, but I'm having a good time with this. So how do we get this one into the movie? Well, as I said, I guess you got to, do flashback kind of things, but I don't think that they would necessarily go, because usually those kind of things are played for humor at this point, where it's like, ha ha, can you believe how backwards people were back in the day like that? I would tend to believe that they're not going to do that, but you could have some values dissonance in like old school. There you go. How about a flashback to UFC 1? Like old school, early no rules kind of era before the unified rules got adapted. That's an easy way to bring it in. He's watching footage from UFC fucking 5, He's watching the footage of Joe-san getting his nuts fucking smashed in to bits, Or that great footage of the dude hitting the elbows in the crucifix, Oh, cheers, brother. I appreciate you, Chase. Thanks for rocking with me, brother. But yeah, I mean, I think that this all makes sense, right? I mean, I think that you could have a pretty easy values dissonance in them watching pre-unified rules footage. And the UFC's involvement means that they'll have a full catalog of old fight footage to choose from. Easy way in. So maybe I adjust my thinking on this a little bit. Maybe there is more potential for values dissonance to be exemplified in the Brawler movie. I'm going to go with a conservative 5 out of 10 on this one. Maybe closer to a 4 than a 5, but 4.5 to 5. I like it though. I like this as a concept. I like values dissonance just as a general human conception. The non-Nazi swastika, that's a great one. That is an absolute great one, because that is still very strange to see. Brief story, because that just caught my eye. My dad is a person who works with a lot of different people from very different backgrounds, very inclusive environment that my dad works in. And at one point, we were invited to worship at, I believe it was a Hindu temple. And in Hinduism, the swastika is used as a symbol of peace. Of course, it was appropriated by the Nazis for that exact reasoning. Take something from another culture and make it their own. So it was a little bit wild as a young child to walk into the Hindu temple and see a bunch of swastikas just up on the walls. Now, granted, they were the reverse swastikas. That's how the Hindu people differentiate it. At least, mostly, I would think. It's certainly not the black on white on red. But generally you see it in the reverse pattern. But it was still kind of, crazy to see. So the beautiful example of values dissonance. As I said, I like it as a concept. Let's see what else we got. The Show of Books. A book series is adapted into a TV series. Not just a TV movie, but a regular weekly series about the characters. Unless the book series is already a long runner, this is probably going to overtake the source material quite quickly, expand the story, and become its own alternate continuity. In fact, it may not even use the books as anything other than a source of characters and a premise. So I think that this is kind of like The Walking Dead, I would guess. So I think by nature, again, this is one that can't be, unless they're planning on adapting a book into this movie, but I don't think that they are. Maybe basing it on the life story of a fighter who wrote their own memoir, as a couple of them have. Potentially that could be, but this one I think is the first that I don't think that you can even write this into the series or into the movie, because there is no book to be had. So this is one that I think that we've finally found ourselves in an absolute corner here. yeah, I don't think that there's really any way to get around the. I don't think there's any way to get around this one as far as like shoehorning it into the Zack Snyder movie, because there is no original book. So there you go. We have found ourselves at an impasse when it comes to this trope. I guess we'll have to leave it and let it fall by the wayside. I don't know if there's anything that you can think of that I'm not thinking of, then okay. But well, okay, all right. I'll hear me out on this one, okay? Because I think that this is how Galaxy Brain Thinker St. James is, okay? Listen to this. If you are familiar with the movie and by extension the graphic novel Watchmen, which you may have recalled that I brought up earlier, Zack Snyder directed the film version of Watchmen. In the Watchmen, there is a series within the series. It's called The Curse of the Black Freighter. It's a comic book that characters inside of the comic book are reading. If you go and watch the extended director's ultimate box set version of the Watchmen DVD, there is a visual graphic novel interpretation of The Curse of the Black Freighter. Zack Snyder directed that film. He's directing this film. There could be this own movie's version of The Curse of the Black Freighter. If that happens, and that continues on past this movie, I did it. If that happens, I am the GOAT. But I highly doubt that that is going to be the case. But if that were to happen, what would that be? Well, it could be an anime, kind of what we were talking about earlier with like MMA themes that gets adapted from the movie as the source material, acting as the book, so to speak, and then goes past the Brawler movie. Maybe it's also called Brawler or extension, of the Brawler or something like that. Maybe that's a little, not the greatest title, but the continued adventures of the Brawler. Something like that or something completely different, but it starts there and then works its way past the characters from the Brawler movie and continues on into its own reality. I'm going to give this one a 0 out of 10, but I do appreciate my big-brained moves that I just made there to get it into this movie. So I think that I think I'm going to give it to it. I think I'm going to give it to myself here. Thanks. Thank you, everybody. Because I had to go the long way to make that one work. Shiny New Australia. These tropes are this is some shit that I have never even heard of or thought about. Saying the big bad is about to take over the world, but you have something you have something they need. What would you ask for in return for your help? And you can think big. After all, they do have the entire world to offer. No need to feel constrained to beg to be spared. Or maybe you are the big bad. This is a whole big lead up here. Okay, so so basically the idea is that you're asking for Australia as in exchange for your services, or to not be the bad person who's going to end the world. I guess the idea is basically that you're asking for something impossible. Are there a lot of examples of this? Examples with Australia specifically, examples with other places. Okay, so it has to be geographic, I suppose, is what they're trying to say here. And Deus Ex. I just talked about that. In Deus Ex, the main villain, Bob Page, is more generous. He offers J.C. Denton Europe as his own personal fiefdom if he will just stop his attempt to bring down his plans. Okay, so how does this enter the movie? All right, well, how this enters the movie is that Turki Alashikh is a character in the film, and he's negotiating with Dana and telling Dana that in order for his plan to be the ultimate powerhouse when it comes to sports entertainment on the planet, he wants the UFC. He wants Saudi Arabia to buy the UFC. In return, he will give Dana White his own kingdom within the kingdom, a literal fiefdom. Does Dana go for the offer? That's the type of shit that probably would really entice Dana White. You mean I could have an entire city all to myself? Not only a city, brother. It's an entire geographic region. You went from regional fight promotions to owning and controlling an entire region of planet Earth. Shit, dude. Epstein only had an island. Hopefully it would not be used for the same purposes, but you get what I'm trying to say here. Richard Branson. That's another guy with an island. So the Turki Alashikh is like Dana. Richard Branson has an island. Richard Branson has been to space. You can have an entire region of the planet, and I'll also send you to space. I got the money. All you have to do is give me the UFC. I like it. Likelihood that this will be in the Brawler movie. I'm going to go 3.5 out of 10. I go 3.5 out of 10. It's a low likelihood, but I guess it depends on how real they want to be. How real are they going with the realism of this movie? If Dana is involved in the movie, probably not very close to it, but I would think that there is potential. So 3.5 out of 10. I like it. It's almost like in Scientology where you get your own planet after you die. If you're whatever level high enough in the organization. Scientology. That's probably a trope in here somewhere. Church of Happyology? The Church... Oh, there we go. The Church of Scientology. That's what I was looking for. Oh, but this is just the Wikipedia article. Come on. The Church of Scientology has a reputation for being very protective of its public image and of being extraordinarily sensitive to what it considers defamation. This has been demonstrated by the church breaking out of... or the churches breaking out the lawyers to suppress any potential source of mockery by lawsuit, along with hiring private investigators to dig up dirt on its critics, and in a few cases, even framing critics for various crimes. Naturally, this just makes them easier to mock. Lampooning this religion directly, or even uttering its name and a word against it, may expose unwary parodyists to severe civil penalties. Parodies therefore frequently use a Church of Happyology, quote-unquote, a stand-in religion that is well enough veiled to stave off lawsuits, but still transparent enough to allow clued-in people to identify the actual target. Boom. This one's easy. This is fucking Choice Center right here. Khalil Roundtree makes a cameo in the movie. This new guy, the main character of the movie, he's an up-and-coming fighter. He's 5-0 now. Gets his 6th win. You know, he goes in there. It's his second fight in the organization. He's on a hot streak. 2 fights, 2 knockouts. Win number 6 comes in easy. Sees Khalil Roundtree in the back. Khalil's like, bro, you're pretty good. But I can see that you're conflicted. You know, you got all these people around you that maybe don't have your best interest at heart. Seems like you need a new choice in life. I have a center that you could go to make better choices for your life. This guy's like, oh, well, what's it called? Get this. Choice Center. Easy. Too easy. But I mean, it's a church of happyology, so I guess it has to be the decision. I don't know, the decision apex. Well, there's already an apex involved in UFC, so what would it be? I don't know. Pick a synonym for center. The decision facility. I go to a very special club called Decision Facility. Hard to say. But there you go. Easy. So, you've got, but that's actually not a bad one though. Like, if you think about it, because like you could have the scene in the movie where he's starting to get a little bit of hype and a lot of people are pulling him in a lot of different directions. You've got guys over here who are telling him that he should do this thing. You've got guys over here who are telling him he should do this thing. Why don't you join this gym? Why don't you go to, this person's campaign rally? It's like he's starting to become a star. So he's getting pulled in a lot of directions, kind of mirroring a very close friend of mine right now who's gaining a little bit of status in life. He is a go-getter who went after it and is now doing great things. And a lot of people are coming out of the woodwork to ask of him. He's got people trying to, dip into his affairs. They all want a piece of the pie. Similar circumstances for this guy in the Brawler movie. He's starting to get a little bit of buzz about him. All of the, the vultures start circling. All of the, the rodents start crawling out of the woodwork to, get a little taste of the action. So perhaps a church of happyology is something in there. In fact, I would say that there's probably that might be 4 out of 10 territory. I would say that if it ends up in the movie, it's like a brief passing thing. Like, it's probably not a super long and drawn out scene or anything like that. But, if it shows up on a brochure or a pamphlet just hanging out in the back, there you go. So yeah, I'd say another 3.5 to 4 out of 10. Church of Happyology shows up there. You'll be so happy, you'll puke rainbows. Rainbow puke is its own trope. How likely is that to show up in the movie? Next to depicting loss of bowel or bladder control, there's few things more inherently gross than showing someone throwing up. It's an instinctually revolting sight, and everything about it can easily cause people nearby to lose their own lunches, or at least feel like they might. So how do you have characters upchucking without potentially squeaking out the audience? Squicking out the audience. Simple. Show the character with a rainbow-colored stream of liquid or light coming out of their mouth. Rainbow vomit. Likelihood of showing up in the Brawler movie. This one. Here you go. Another easy one. Too good at this. Main character starting out before he's a fighter is in with the wrong crowd. He's taking drugs with his homeboy, who's a sidekick, who's going to end up being a bad influence on him when he finally gets his life together and becomes the fighter that he wants to be. But at the early part of the movie, they're just a pair of losers together. They're doing some hallucinogenics paired with some other stuff, speedballing maybe. They're sitting there and somebody starts to puke. They envision it to be rainbows, but in reality, that person is ODing. And that's the catalyst that turns the main character's life around to get his life together and take fighting seriously. Bingo. I'm too nice. Likelihood? Maybe not the rainbow puke itself, but that scenario that I just laid out, that's like a 6 out of 10 scenario. Likelihood of rainbow puke? Lower. 2 out of 10. Sock slide rink. Oh, I love this. This is like risky business. Yeah. Compare risky business dance, which starts off this way. So you have a smooth enough floor or surface, maybe recently and constantly waxed, comparable to ice. Socks otherwise are made for comfort to protect feet, but are smooth underneath and just as good as ice skates. Put them together and bam, your own little makeshift ice rink, just without the coldness and the whole balancing thing. So this is where you slide on the floor with socks. Yeah, like the risky business dance. There you go. Though, since you're not able to, break, good chance you'll end up on your ass or into a wall or worse, crashing into another person. Hey, still fun, though. Likelihood of this lighthearted trope showing up in the Brawler movie. Yeah, this is where he's got the... This is the point in the movie where his young, sick child that he's taken under his wing is trying to add a little levity to a situation. They're in the gym. It's after hours. It's freshly waxed. The guy with the buffer has just finished waxing part of the floor. He's closing up shop, but the dude who's the main character is living in the gym, as is this urchin, poor, sick child that he's taken under his wing. The buffer guy leaves, not Bruce Buffer, the guy who's buffing the floors. Let's keep this clear. The buffer man leaves after the floor has been freshly waxed, and to have a little bit of fun, because this kid is so sick and so infirmed and so needs the guidance and levity and compassion of this older father figure, he goes sliding down the floor in his socks. Our main character follows him. They both crash into some mats, some BJJ mats, propped up on the wall there. They have a good laugh about it. And then reality sinks back in that the kid is sick and this dude's broke. And what are they going to do? I like this. It's probably not the highest, but I would say another solid 3 out of 10. I like it. Let's do like 2 more. Then we'll wrap this thing up. I want to try ones that, let's actually search for a couple that, might make sense here. So, let's see. Let's see what comes up if you just put fight in. I will fight some more forever. I love the names of these tropes. This wiki is really funny. I will fight some more forever. In movies and TV shows, some supposed enemy appears. An alien from another planet, some unidentified Earth-based target, or something else that it appears the only way to defend against it, whether or not it has hostile intentions, is the Army, Navy, and or Marines. So the military comes out and they start shooting, and they discover that the enemy has shields, or that for some reason the military's best ordnance attacks, or that for some reason the military's best ordnance attacks do not have even the slightest effect. Or worse, their opponent has ray guns or other equipment that can shoot down and or incinerate attacking equipment and or aircraft. So you would think that since the material they are using is being destroyed, the military commander would stop wasting ammo or equipment, not to mention the personnel being vaporized, killed, or seriously injured. No, they keep right on shooting, wasting ammo, and getting their ass kicked, as if the purpose of the military is to continue to throw away its ordnance on invulnerable targets after it's been shown that there is no effect. Okay, so this is like where you've got Godzilla and they're shooting thousands and thousands of bullets at it. None of the bullets are doing anything, so they shoot rockets at it. The rockets also don't do anything. And instead of just stopping that and trying to regroup and do something else, they continue just to do the same thing over and over again. I like this one, and I'll tell you, this is another easy one, which I actually think is this is like a 9 or 10 out of 10 showing up in the movie, where you have a fighter who is going to be the big boss man. This is the current champion that our main character has to overcome in order to become the champion. And this guy's the best in the world. No one can beat this guy. So you see some of his old footage of when he first started out and he was just smoking guys, right? There's video footage of this guy back in the day with an unexperienced opponent, and this opponent is just wailing on his stomach, wailing on his abdomen, shot after body shot after body shot, shots that look like they might actually be able to hurt a regular person. You know, a non-fighter would go down to these shots. A fighter like the champion of the world doesn't do a fucking thing. So he goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Looks up at the guy. The guy has no expression on his face. He's standing there stone-faced. Nothing is affecting him in the slightest. So instead of stopping the body shots, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Tries to go for a headshot. Guy catches the fist, throws him to the ground, and bam, one-shots him. That shows the dominance of the current champion of the world. 9 out of 10 trope. I think we could definitely see that in the Brawler movie. Let's go down a little bit when it comes to fighting. Let's go deep for the last one here. Jurassic Fight Club, the series. What the fuck is Jurassic Fight Club? Oh, I guess this is a TV show. Jurassic Fight Club is a television documentary series that airs on the History Channel. All right. Well, I doubt the Jurassic Fight Club is going to make an appearance, but here we go. Fight Magnet. We'll end on Fight Magnet. 1, because we've been going for 2 hours, and 2, because I like those words together. Fight Magnet. In fact, Fight Magnet might not be a bad name for an organization or something in the MMA space. Fight Magnet Magazine. Fightmagnet.com. Does fightmagnet.com exist? Oh, well, it helps if you spell magnet right. Magnet. Nope. No fightmagnet.com yet. So there you go. There's another free idea from yours truly. Everywhere a hero goes, he finds a fight. Oh, perfect one to end on. There's always a horde of mooks who can't wait to mug the monster, and nobody will pass up the chance for a piece of the hero. Come on, dude. This one fucking writes itself. Complete strangers will pick a fight with the hero for the most trivial reasons and gang up en masse at the slightest excuse. This is especially common in action movies and shows, especially martial arts-centered ones. It's often used as an excuse to show a fight scene when the plot doesn't call for one. Bro, I swear to God I did not plan this, but this is the absolute best way we could have ended this thing, because this is a 10 out of 10 trope right here. Obviously, the main character is going to be a fight magnet. Not even inside of the UFC. Not even inside of the big show. This dude is just going to be getting into fights left and right on the mean streets of LA. And then somebody's going to be like, bro, you should take that and do it inside the cage. So he thinks, yeah, that might be not a bad idea. Easy 10 out of 10. Perfect way to end this little exercise. All right. So, I mean, you know, that is about 2 hours on a Sunday night. It's midnight. I've got a bunch of fights to rewatch for tomorrow night, so we'll leave it at that. I hope you guys have found this somewhat entertaining. I quite enjoyed it myself, but I might have been the only one. But I did have a good time, and it's my birthday, so I get to do whatever the fuck I want. Anyway, tomorrow is not my birthday, but it is Last Week's Fight, my podcast with Chase Parton. That is going to be at its new start time, 10 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time, ladies and gentlemen, right here on the Yama channel, youtube.com/@YamaShow. If you are not already subscribed, make sure you hit that subscribe button on YouTube and watch on Kick, Twitch, and Trovo as well if you'd like. If you got accounts on those platforms, sign up and follow there as well. You can watch the stream on the platform of your choice. New video content coming out this week. I'm definitely going to have something out, so keep your eyes on the channel. There's a video out right now, which I highly encourage you to watch. It is my campaign video for Conor McGregor to become the president of Ireland. I think that it's got a lot of great points in it that might change your mind about how you're thinking about Conor and his run for president. So check that out. Leave a like if you enjoy it. Dislike it if you don't. And, of course, we'll be back on Monday for last week's fights. And then next Saturday, of course, is UFC 314. And we will be live right here on the channel. Myself and the Vitz King. Hopefully, if Vitz King is well enough. We're hoping that he will be. But myself and Vitz King live for 314. We're going to be unboxing and trying out Danish snacks from Denmark. Right? Yes. Yeah, exactly. We're going to be trying out snacks from Denmark live on the stream, giving our honest opinion about those. That's going to be awesome. Cannot wait. Really looking forward to enjoying some fine delicacies from the land of my friend Bloomis. Taking a page out of Chase Parton's book by doing that, but it'll be myself and the Vitz King doing it, and we will have some good times, hopefully some good candy on stream as well. So if I don't see you until then, everybody, have a great rest of your week, and I'll catch up with you tomorrow. Fight on.
Cliché.